What does it take to create actual abundance, as in money, wealth, financial freedom? If you've ever desired more, good, so have I. Desire isn't the problem. Today, in this video called The Prosperity Shift Every Spiritual Person Must Make, I'll share with you what it takes to create true abundance and why heart-centered people accidentally block the prosperity they've been praying for. I've been broke, deeply in debt, and I've also had wild wealth, financial freedom. The truth is, every fruit, every harvest begins way back before the fruit. So does prosperity. The first key is that programming produces prosperity. And for a lot of us, programming produces poverty first. Here's how it works. I grew up in a lower middle class family with my parents fighting about money all the time. They were divorced when I was 2. I got the message, standard American diet. It wasn't just that I was a fat kid, I was also a poor kid in my thoughts and beliefs. This changed for me radically in my mid-20s. I wasn't looking for it, wasn't expecting it. I was doing a training on how to become a transformational breath practitioner. And in the midst of the training, my teacher says, also required for your graduation from this program is a 40-day spiritual prosperity program. She gave us this little book, tiny book, this tall, called The Abundance Book by John Randolph Price. Now, y'all, here's how deep the programming was going for me in that moment. As soon as I saw the requirement, I had an internal response of, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, whoa, what's up with that? An internal response, I'm not going to do that. Create abundance. Why? Just it went against who I thought I was. However, I'd paid my money for the program and I wanted to get the certificate. I wanted to graduate. And we even started, the whole group of us, there's maybe 50 people in this training. We all started together. We read the opening principle of it, and the way it works, 40 days consecutive. If you miss a day, you go back to day 1. So we all started as a group, and then I was so defiant. Next day, I was like, I'm not doing it. Then fast forward a few weeks later, I'm like, well, if I don't do it, I'm not going to graduate. So I started. It was distasteful to me, as in the language. One, it didn't really make sense to me. I was like, I don't quite understand what that means. 2, it was in what I thought then was kind of a Christian language, really. And then there are Christian elements, and one of the greatest prosperity books ever I've learned since then is the Bible. And nonetheless, I'm going through these principles. There are 10 of them, and so you cycle through them 4 times. I'm going through these principles. They don't make sense. I don't like the language of them. I'm just being a good student, though, doing what was told of me. And how does it work? Read the principle, meditate on it, write about it, notice what comes up, what reactions. By day 6 or 7, things were happening in my life. Like, I had a business then, and I started making more money. Nothing else changed. It's like, oh, well, it's kind of cool, interesting. Fast forward, we get to, I don't know, maybe the second cycle, near the end of the second cycle, day 18, 19, and I realized I like these words. this language is cool. Like it's starting to make sense to me here. Meanwhile, my business is continuing to increase. Like, kind of strange. Well, like, this is, okay, I'm paying attention now. Get all the way till the last week. So what is that? Day 36, 37. I go on a business trip with a friend of mine. On this business trip, I literally was making 2 or 3 times as much money in a day than I'd ever made in that business, and for sure than I'd ever made in any job or business in my life. My head was blown. My mind was blown. I was like, what is going on here? So I kept going. Now, check this out though. Day 39, it's a Friday. We finish our business trip. We were in Pennsylvania. I lived in Massachusetts. We even stopped work early on Friday. That's how much abundance I had. However, it started snowing hard. I reverted, though, to my old poverty consciousness. My thinking was, well, no big deal. It's just a snowstorm. My friend's like, aren't you tired? I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of tired, but I'll just get some caffeine. I'll be fine. So I start driving. The snowstorm gets worse. I drive, I don't know, the whole thing was maybe an 8-hour drive, and I'd driven 5 hours. Now it's dark out. The snow's coming down hard. I'm like this. I've been jacked up on, I didn't drink any coffee at that point in my life, so it's just tea. I'm drinking all this tea. I'm literally risking my life. Why? At that point, because I don't want to spend $40 or $50 on a hotel room. That tells you something about my body's age, how long ago that was that you could get a hotel room or a motel room for $40 or $50. I didn't want to spend it. Thank goodness something intervened, and I realized that's crazy. And I had made that week, I don't know, it seemed like a lot of money to me at the time, maybe $4,500 in that week. No, it was more than that. It was probably like $6,500. I'd never made that much in a week before in my life. So I literally had $6,500, and I didn't want to spend $50 on a hotel room. I'd rather risk my life. So something intervened. I pull over, get a hotel room. I'm so tired at this point. I get in the hotel room, lock the door, lay down on the bed, all my clothes on, pass out. So dead asleep. Do you remember which day of the 40 it was? Yes, it was day 39. And it meant that if I did not do my meditation and writing for that day, and I hadn't done it yet, I was going to start over at 0. Again, something intervened. I don't know how long I was asleep. Half an hour, an hour, and I'm laying there so tired, suddenly, like I wake up and with the clear thing, and I'd forgot, of course, I went to sleep forgetting about the abundance program that day. Clear, wake up. And the message was, do your meditation, do the writing for today. And I did. Turned out I didn't know anything about astrology. The day I started the 40-day prosperity program was on a new moon, new starts. As in today might be a new start for you. Whether it's a new moon or not, you can have this be a seed. Because before the fruit, what comes? There's a seed. Now, even with a good seed, even with prosperity programming, which is what I got for 40 days, totally changed my life. Even with that, we need to watch out for the soil. We need to pull weeds, as in even the strongest seeds don't flourish if they're surrounded by weeds. And what that means, you might write this down: weed before you need. And in this second key, I will share with you some of the weeds, some of the myths, some of the negative programming, because even for me, even then, that changed my life in my mid-20s. I went from my whole life scarce, thinking, worried about money. There's never enough, no matter how much I had. There's never enough. To money flows. Money does grow on trees. I believed that then, and I started living so differently. Still, weeds come back. Old programming dies hard. So, in the title of this video, right, the shift that spiritual people, the reason I say that, and tell you the truth, of course, everybody's spiritual if we're alive, we're animated, there is spirit in us, however we define that. Everybody's spiritual. However, the people that identify as spiritual often struggle more with money than anyone else. One of my favorite quotations some years ago I learned is, "There's nothing sadder than a broke philanthropist." Nothing sadder than a broke philanthropist. In a similar way, how sad is it when people with big hearts, who really care about the world, who are motivated to do good, can't make a living, right? Or the only way they can make a living is working for somebody that they don't like or respect, or they're not into what they're doing, right? So the people that are heart-centered and spiritual, we want those people to be thriving financially. Now, what are the blocks? What are the weeds? Well, here's a big one. Vows of poverty. Right? Think about it. How much programming, especially in Christianity in certain forms, have many of us got that in order to be spiritual, you must have poverty, right? Spiritual and money, they don't belong together. Who said? It's not true. One of my favorite books on wealth, Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. And he breaks it down so clearly and so beautifully as a science, very practical. And one of the chapters in that book is really profound, because what it gets to is a lot of people don't allow themselves to desire money, wealth, abundance. And abundance, is it money? No, of course not. Or not just money. Money is one form of abundance. And this was really radical for me when I first did that prosperity program, to understand, wait, this is something different. Abundance is a flow, right? Affluence means a flow to one, in the flow. And we can have abundance with time. Part of the reason I never say I'm busy, I'm not creating a life where I'm busy. I create a life where I have plenty of time for everything that matters to me. An abundance in relationships. Relationships that work all the time, that are good, that are happy. Abundance of health, energy, vitality. However, I am speaking a lot about money, moolah, dinero, in this video, because that's a big sticking point for a lot of people, especially, again, spiritual people. So, what else do we have in terms of money myths? I remember when I was 16 years old, still living in Maine, went to visit my brother in San Diego. At that point, he was a real estate hotshot, making a lot of money, a lot more than anybody in our family had ever made. And I remember he had a cell phone like early days of cell phones, and I thought it would be really funny. We were in his office waiting for him to finish something. I thought it would be really funny to call him on his cell phone. He was across the room, and there was no caller ID at that point. So he answers the phone. I was like, "Hi, Dana." And he wasn't so happy about that. And afterwards, he gave me a quick lecture, and then he started laughing. Quick lecture was, "You just wasted $100. I was like, $100? 1 minute costs $100? He's like, "No, the call costs $1, but $99 for a minute of my time." What? Because one, that was mind-blowing even to think of that. But two, he was also still in time is money. He said those words, time is money. It's not. That's another lie that we've been sold. Who sold us the lies and why? We'll leave that for another story. The cultural hypnotic programming mechanism. Somebody benefits from people being poor. Somebody benefits from people needing to have jobs and work for somebody else's vision. Which is not, by the way, saying that business is bad, because business, entrepreneurship, is one of the greatest forces for good in the world. However, that's another myth. Business equals greed, equals taking advantage of others. Is it true? Well, it can be. Certainly, there are unscrupulous people in every industry, in every part of life. And business does so much good for the world. There are so many heart-centered business people that are doing really well and creating so much for the world, solving problems, giving great people incomes to create their lives. What other myths? Rich people are fill in the blank. Greedy, right? That's one I grew up with. That's a common one out there. Rich people are greedy. And by the way, part of why I spoke that rich people are ... one of the best ways to discover the hidden weeds in your garden is through prompting the mind. My favorite way of doing it is through journaling. And I've done this several times because, again, there are layers to this. Weeds tend to come back. Right at the top of a page, money is ... And then start filling in the blank. Get into a stream of consciousness. Money is dirty. There was a point in my life, right? This was just a year prior to the 40-day prosperity program. I literally felt like money is dirty. Now, physically, is money dirty? I don't know. It passes between people. A germaphobe might get freaked out on that, but that wasn't it for me. Like, in my mind, money was dirty. It was like, I don't want that. For a period, I would not have cash in my pocket. I wanted to keep it separate from me. Talk about creating poverty. Right? Money is dirty. The sign of greed. The root of all evil. Have you heard that one before? Money is the root of all evil? Misquoting from the Bible? No, it's not money. It's the root of it's the love, the coveting of money, the prioritizing of money over people, the heart, love, values, respect. They don't have to be incompatible. Right? Money is a great way to give. One of my mentors, very wealthy guy, we were chatting one day, and he told me about how sometimes people judge him because of his wealth and because of the business that he was doing, which was phenomenal on the level that, one, he was helping me and literally hundreds of other people. This was back many years ago when I was doing some network marketing. A beautiful business model. Some people like it, some people don't, some people judge it. I used to judge it a lot until I actually learned it, understood what it's about. And one of the biggest criticisms in network marketing is that the people at the top make money and everyone else doesn't. It's a pyramid scheme, right? It's one of those get rich quick schemes. I love this thing that Myron Golden says. We get warned about getting rich, the get rich scheme. What about the stay poor for your whole life scheme? Because that's what happens for so many people, unless we change the programming, unless we do the weeding. So the exercise, money is, and then fill in the blank. You can speak it out, you can write it out, and you just keep going. Money is awesome. Money is beautiful. Money is dirty. Money is yucky. Money is insufficient. Money is always a problem. Right? And I'm just making stuff up right now. But those are all ones that have been in there for me. Another one, and how we set into this minor course here, is rich people are. Rich people are what? Fill in the blank. And I know I had it. So many people have it that rich people are greedy, bad, self-centered, unhappy, right? Programming, Scrooge, what a character. Right? Well, he had an awakening. He pulled some weeds. He got an intervention. What else? It's easier for a rich man to pass through the eye of a needle than to get into heaven. Interesting. That's a misunderstanding. Right? Happens a lot. I used to run yoga teacher trainings, and in those trainings, one of the requirements I gave our trainees was to do the 40-day spiritual prosperity program. Why would I do that? Because there's an underlying belief for a lot of people that if something is spiritual, it should be free. Right? Why is it in our culture that teachers and caregivers, who arguably do the most heart-centered, important work in creating our children, in taking care of the people we love that can't take care of themselves well, that educate, create the next generation of people, they get paid so little. It's rooted in that. What do we value? All right, I could go on and on with the weeds. I invite you to consider, what are the weeds in your garden? So, when we pull the weeds, remarkable things happen. When we pull the weeds in a garden, we've got space to grow something different. Right? The new programming can take root and become fruits. So when we get to this third and last key for this video, the principle for you is stewardship sustains success. Stewardship. Not just planting seeds all the time. It's also actually cultivating, curating, taking care of the garden. And the garden, meaning your consciousness, right? Your awareness, your beliefs, your identity. It was 1996 when I did the 40-day prosperity program. My life changed. Two and a half years later, I was living in Spain. And I'd moved there because of a relationship, and after we got there, we ended up breaking up, and I was really sad, and I didn't know anybody, I didn't speak the language. A friend of a friend was letting me use her office to receive my mail. She was never there, so she gave me a key, just said, come in anytime and you can get your mail. And part of me wanted to run home after the breakup, but something in me said, no, stay here, stay here. Still, it was hard. I was sad, and at one point I got really homesick. And I got a craving. I was still pulling some of the weeds of my dietary preferences at that point as well. And the craving was, I'm going to walk from the old part where I lived, Santiago de Compostela, over to the new part and go to a Pizza Hut. I didn't even really like Pizza Hut when I lived in the US. However, somehow comfort food, right? And interestingly, cheese, being digestive glue, blocks the flow, one flow, and abundance is a flow. But that was what I was craving. I wanted the Pizza Hut pizza. Comfort food, remind me of home. So I walk all the way over there. I get to the Pizza Hut takeout window. By now I've learned enough Spanish that I can understand how to order the pizza. However, I looked at the menu and it was ridiculous. It was like $25, right? Back in 1998, I was like, oh, that's too much. I can't afford to spend that much. At that point, I didn't have any income here living in Spain. I didn't know the language that well. I hadn't thought to myself how to create income. So I sat there, stood there. I really want the pizza. That's too much money. I can't afford that. I really want the pizza. And then I remembered the 40-day prosperity program, the programming I had created around abundance. And I realized in that moment something very profound, which is every moment is a moment of cultivation. What am I planting in the garden right now? Is it a thought of abundance or a thought of poverty? And whatever thought we plant is going to grow. Now, be clear, I'm not saying if you don't have enough money to pay your bills or get food or something like that, and I've been there with that. I'm not saying go out and buy a TV on credit, right? No. I'm saying plant seeds of abundance. And the truth in that moment for me there, I could afford the $25 for the pizza. I had enough money for it. So I bought the pizza. I said, I'm going to do this, not just because I want the pizza. I'm going to do this to remind myself of what I learned 2.5 years ago, because it still applies now. I'm going to invest in abundance. It was pretty good. Not so good. Pizza, okay. I was happy I did it though. After I ate a couple slices, I walked over to my friend's office. Like, might as well check my mail since I'm still out right now. Walk into her office. There's a stack of mail there. Most of it was nothing important. However, there was one envelope. I was like, that looks like an official thing. And I opened it, and it was a check for $1,200 that I was completely not expecting. Right? Had no idea it was coming. Out of nowhere. And did I make up that moment of investing in abundance thinking led to me receiving a, 100-fold return, something like that, in a matter of minutes? Maybe. Could be. I made it up. Here's the thing though. We're making stuff up all the time. Right? I don't think or speak to describe some predefined truth. As Shakespeare put it, whether you think something is true or think it's untrue, you are right. It's the thinking that makes it. When we think, when we speak, we are creating. So, I got one more piece for you. Something very simple and practical, right? And you might want to get John Randolph Price's book and actually do the program yourself. I've done it several times. I've recommended it to so many people. So many of the yogis who moved through our yoga teacher training thanked me, still thank me for how that changed their life. Another of my favorite teachings on prosperity, I think it's the book, it's by Edwene Gaines, Gaines. I believe the book is called The 4 Laws of Spiritual Abundance or something like that. And she brought something brilliant, which is abundance Wealth, financial freedom, money is incompatible with, guess what? What gets in the way of it? Yeah, the weeds, and complaint. Complaining. Think about it. If we are moving through our lives and frequently saying, I don't want, I don't like, I don't want, that is bad, right? And if something or somebody is listening, what are they thinking about what to give that person? More? No, less. Right? They don't like what they have, so let's not give them more. Complaint signals the universe, our higher self. It says, I don't want more. One of the beautiful things that I learned really clearly from Wallace Wattles is desiring more. That's human. That's part of why we're here, to live to our potential. Right? And to live to our true potential, it requires money, wealth, financial freedom. Again, look at the people that are devoted to their own growth, personal and spiritual development. If we don't have money to invest in ourselves, to buy a book, for instance, to invest in a coach, to be with a teacher, travel, to experience what we are here to experience life, to experience our full potential. So another recommendation, great practice, the complaint-free challenge. I'll share more about that in another video. For now, y'all, thank you for being with me. I invite you to become a gardener, a wealth gardener. Grow your gratitude, grow your generosity, make your life a masterpiece. Thanks, y'all. Aloha.